You're watching Inside Utah Politics.
Time now to dig into some of the big stories of the week with the Inside Utah Politics panel. This week we have State Senator Todd Weiler and former State Senator Jim DeBackus. Gentlemen, great to have you with us. Thanks so much for being here.
Great to be here.
Okay, let's talk about party politics. Some big problems from within on both sides of the two major parties. Are the parties losing their way here in the state of Utah?
Oh, I think they've lost their way. The question is, with this new leadership that was elected on the Republican side yesterday, and Democrats may have new leadership next month, can they find their way back? But I think we've already crossed that bridge.
Okay, we'll get back to can they find their way back in a minute. Have the parties lost their way, Jim?
A mess. Democrats are a mess. We don't get nearly the attention of the Republicans because they went off a cliff, but it's not good. And I think the Democrats are going to not reap the benefits they should be reaping because they're just fighting each other.
And did they miss out on an opportunity there, being that there was so much internal fighting within the Republican Party?
Yeah, I mean, it's sad to watch this happen. It's all become about personalities and.
They picked up 4 seats in the legislature. They picked up Mia Love's seat. So, I mean, maybe they could have picked up more, but I wouldn't say they completely missed the opportunities. So.
No, not in the previous election. I'm saying since then. It's the problem is we should have a giant tidal wave with Trump in 2020. And I think the Democrats are still fighting that Bernie and Hillary stuff, and it's all personal, and it's toxic, and we're not going to reap what we should because we're fighting each other instead of Todd.
Fight the real enemy.
All right, let's kind of break this down a little. Within the Republican Party, we've seen huge division over SB 54, the dual path to the primary. In the Democratic Party, the chair, Daisy Thomas, coming out through the week saying, look, we made a mistake on implementing our anti-harassment policies. So that's kind of where we're at here. Todd, what does the Republican Party need to do moving forward to try to turn the ship around?
Well, they need to refocus on trying to get Republicans elected instead of trying to cannibalize each other. I think both the Republican and the Utah Democratic parties have been it's kind of the tail wagging the dog with the extremists kind of setting the agenda. But I mean, a political party's job is to recruit good candidates, raise money, get their candidates elected. I think both parties have kind of lost sight of that. Some Republicans would rather fight with some other Republicans. Same with the Democrats, and it's just weird.
And I've heard some Republican elected officials, some of the highest ones in the state, say, "Didn't seem like the party was there for me."
Yeah.
But in fairness, every candidate that loses says that, and the ones that
I'm talking
win,
about ones that won even are saying that.
And I'm saying also the ones that won say, well, I won, and the party had very little to do. I mean, it's the most thankless job in sports. To see the Democrats spending all their time worried about the state party constitution,
bylaws, platform, Robert's Rules of Order.
So what do you think you need to see within the Utah Democratic Party to get things moving along?
One thing they need is you elect a chair, and I mean, I loved every minute of it, but it's hard. You elect a chair, and then you let that chair lead. Utah Democrats have been so sniping. They've been you need 100 people in a central committee to make the simplest decision. You know what? You elect a chair, let that chair run the party, and you don't like it, and get rid of them. That's that's the problem with the Democrats.
Let's talk about this, though. Are people starting to lose interest in party politics?
I think so. I think with the advent of technology and social media and other things, I don't think the public or the candidates need the party like they used to. And so I think that's incumbent on the parties to kind of redefine themselves.
That's a very interesting point. Like, if the candidates don't need the parties the way they used to, what is the role of the party moving forward?
Holy tradition.
Yeah, well, I think the platform is important. They kind of set, these are the guiding principles. Mm-hmm. I think they should be raising money from the candidates instead of trying to extract money from the candidates. That's what we've seen from the Republican Party the last 5 or 10 years. When I was in party leadership, we would give money to the candidates. Since I've been in the legislature, I just get request after request after request.
The Democrats need a big sugar daddy like the Republicans. I mean, one of those big old IT guys came along and
said... You had Ian Cummings.
And he never wrote a $400,000 or $500,000 check and say, okay, you're out of debt, but you pretty much got to do whatever I say. I mean, the Democrats, we would think about that. If you got $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, you want to give it to the Democratic Party? I mean,
one quick point before we move on to the next topic: how much are extremes playing in this? Are extremes running the parties, and those that are more in the middle, are they the ones becoming disenfranchised?
So they're setting the agendas. There's not enough of them to run the party per se, but there's enough of them that show up, and they constantly show up, and other people get fatigued, and they're like the little Energizer bunnies. They just keep going and going and going. So they are defining the agendas.
Okay. Any thoughts on that before we move on?
Just, it is, for us, it's Bernie and Hillary. Even though the personalities change, it is this constant tension. And you know what? We got to get over it if we're gonna get rid of Trump.
Is Biden the new Hillary? I mean, isn't he the establishment candidate now?
We'll have to see.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the next one, and that being the Mueller Report. During the week, the Attorney General on Wednesday going before Congress about 5 hours, on Thursday saying, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
What do we make of the latest
developments? Well, I don't think he said he was done with it. I think
he wasn't going to show up on Thursday
I think
to testify.
that the Democratic chair of that committee decided he wanted to grandstand rather than ask questions. So he wanted the Attorney General to answer questions from committee attorneys instead of from the representatives. And so, I think he knew exactly what would happen, and he's treating it like an impeachment proceeding or something like that. So we got 5 hours of testimony. We all have the report. That's what I think is so silly about this. Anyone who says, well, Barr mischaracterized the report, let's read the report instead of talking about what he said about the report 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Your thoughts on the testimony?
Todd's a lawyer.
It's true.
Look, when you get a subpoena, it isn't, I don't feel like talking, or, I already went over this, or the other lawyer's just trying to grandstand. That is our institutional system, and Trump has destroyed it. What I'm really worried about, and I'm deadly serious about this, January 20th, 2021, Donald J. Trump is going to say, I am not leaving. It was rigged. I have the police, I have the military, and I can see Chris Stewart, who said that he is Mussolini, and I can see Mike Lee, who just can't say enough good about him. I can see them going, you know what? He's got a point, because these guys have proven themselves to be utterly gutless. The Constitution says it is the job of the Congress with checks and balances to keep an eye on the executive branch, not on their party. And like little zombie robots, they don't want to know the facts. They don't want to know what it is. They want to cover it up, and they want to cozy up to Donald Trump so they can get their federal judges and they can get their public land deals. It's despicable, and it's a complete dereliction of duty, and I'm worried about the United States of America.
Well, I'd have to give you time to respond to that.
My good friend Jem, first of all, he doesn't have to leave on January 21st unless there's a Democrat that beats him, and I haven't seen that Democrat yet. Second of all, you're the same guy that was probably saying that he would start a nuclear war and crash the economy if he was elected. He's been in for 2.5 years. None of those things have happened, and so no, I think if Trump does lose the election, we're going to see what we've seen time and time again in our country. You'll see an orderly transfer of power. And it was Hillary that said Trump wouldn't accept the results of the election, and she's the one that turned around and wanted to contest it. So
we'll see, but there's a lot of things and a lot of places that I think normal Utahns have said the country will never get here, like ignoring subpoenas, and you can go through the list when this man, for his own self-aggrandizement, has done again and again. I am worried about the future. I'm worried about our institutions, and I think it's time that our members of Congress stood up and said, our job is to keep an eye on that executive, whoever it is, and put party politics behind their constitutional duty.
Address that one point, because I think there are Utahns who probably say, I like the policies, but I don't like the behavior.
Yeah, I don't like the behavior. I don't like Trump's behavior. I do like some of the policies, but Yeah, so I look at the Constitution's pretty clear. If we ever have a president who says I'm not going to leave the White House, we probably have a crisis for a day or two. But it's the judicial branch that swears in the new president. It's the legislative branch. They're not going to fall behind. If Trump loses the Electoral College, he's going to leave the White House. I don't think that this is a manufactured crisis.
All right,
so.
10 minutes goes just like that. Gentlemen, thanks for the conversation.
Thanks, Glenn.
Appreciate having you here. Thank you, Glenn. Stay with us. We'll be right back for more Inside Utah Politics right after the break.